Everyone. Hi, teacher.
Sure.
Okay, recording.
Yes.
So, hello everyone. Hello, dear guests and beloved partners of our project. We love you all, by the way. Welcome to Survivor Media Review e-tuning project meeting. Today, I am the representative of project partners from Turkey, Italy, Spain, Jordan, Croatia, Romania, Ukraine, and Latvia. As our partners know, in our project, we want to raise media literate children. For this, we meet every Thursday, indeed, and host many important guests in the area of media literacy. Today, we also have important scholars from the USA, Dr. Belinha, DeAbreu, and Associate Dr. Melda, Yıldız. Welcome one more time. And we are more than glad to have you among us. First of all, let me inform our participants about you. I want to share my screen. So you see Belinha DeAbreu, I guess, in the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Belinha is a global media educator. She served as an international expert to the Forum on Media and Information Literacy for UNESCO's Communication and Information section. She's also author. She's the author of Teaching Media Literacy, Mobile Learning Through Digital Media Literacy, and co-author and co-editor of the International Handbook of Media Literacy Education, Global Media Literacy in a Digital Age, Media Literacy Education in Action, many important books, and the author of Media Literacy, Social Networking, and the Web 2 World for the K-12 Educator. And you know, as e-winners, we are all interested in Web 2 tools. Let me share some more info about Melda, Yıldız. Okay. Can you see or no?
Not now. Not right now.
Oh,
Not
right.
yet.
Okay, let me share one more time.
Okay.
This one, I guess you can see.
Now it's right. Yeah.
Okay. So please meet Melda Yıldız, Associate Professor and Chair. She's a global scholar once again, assessment and curriculum consultant, instructional designer, author, and edupreneur. And as she's also the author of many important books. As a teacher educator, she taught media literacy education, multimedia production, and educational technology to P16 educators and teacher candidates at William Patterson University and Keene University in Jersey. Melda Yıldız taught as a national faculty as Leicester University, as a contributing faculty to Walden University, and as a visitor scholar at Turkey, Abant İzzet Baysal University, and Mehmet Akif University. She worked as the Director of Assessment and Accreditation, and as a program reviewer and site visitor for StarTalk, National Security Language Initiative. We are so much glad to have you, and we can't wait to hear you. Please, floor is yours.
Good. Thank you so much for having us. We're really happy to be here. So basically, when I talk to Melda, what we're going to do is we're going to go through a couple of things, and I want to give time for people to ask questions as well. And in between, actually, I have a couple of things as well to go along with that. And Melda will jump in at different sections. And then we're in the middle of actually a project that we're working on together. So I sort of expanded a little bit of what we said we were going to do. So let me share my screen.
Yeah, please.
So everyone can see this?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So I actually called it digital spaces and digital places because we're going to talk about all of that, but we also look at it from obviously the foundation of media literacy. And there are four probably big issues that we see happening with media literacy education that we think are very important to be covered. One is obviously the disinformation piece, and I know that you've had Frank Baker who came and talked to you about some general things around that. We will talk a little bit about that as well. The digital divide, which I think was been highlighted by the pandemic, who has digital access and who about tech knowledge, but also within that is who are you in this digital footprint and where are we going with all this information? And then also how it's affected our health information with also representation and misrepresentation. And then ultimately the algorithmic justice piece, because I think it ties in all the things that we're talking about, especially because we know that the algorithm that is within all of these technologies is so dominant and forceful. Melda, do you want to add anything? Oh, I don't know. I don't know if Melda's still.
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay,
Keep going.
okay.
Sorry about that.
So yes, continue.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
All right. So here is where we're at. We are divided about information, and this was actually a photo designed by Ben Garrison here in the United States, who really talks about the issues that we're facing with what we believe and what we don't believe. And this division in information has caused bigger problems. One of the reasons why we're having this division, I think, across the world is because of the fact that we are following certain types of places where we get our information, certain news sources, and we're not getting the whole picture of what it is that we probably need most, which is really good information. So the definition that we use as the basis for our work is that media literacy is a 21st century approach, and it's really the framework to access, analyze, evaluate, and create messages in a variety of forms. And this is something that the scope has increased to print video, to the internet, but obviously we talk now about social networks and any kind of technology that's moving forward, including robotics. And the idea behind media literacy is to build on citizens of democracy so that we can actually have a cohesive, growing citizenry that talks to each other, that really understands what kind of information is out there and how we communicate with each other. There's so much that has been underrepresented and has left us with a lot of bad information. And some of it has to do with the fact that we are surrounded by the same kinds of pieces of information over and over again, which are really filter bubbles. And those filter bubbles have kind of become a dominant factor in our lives. These are the 5 core concepts and key questions. I'm sure that Frank Baker probably covered some of these with you as the basis, but I think it's always important that this is sort of the underlying theme of why we do what we do and how we question the media. This was developed by the Center for Media Literacy. I'm sorry. Okay. This was developed by the Center for Media Literacy, but I think more than anything else, it's also been something that was generated actually in the UK. They actually had 20 questions when this framework was developed, and then the Canadians dropped it down to 7. And in the US, we kind of took it down to 5 because really we're trying to communicate the best, the quickest, and yet at the same time, all of these questions provide some depth to the thinking that we see happening excuse me, in the world around us. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, so this is a pretest, and I think this is a good opportunity for us to kind of see where you're at. So has anyone ever heard of this gentleman by the name of Hans Rosling? No. Okay, so Hans Rosling, he wrote a book called Factfulness, and he's actually from Sweden. And one of the things that he has done is that he has found that people have these beliefs about the world because of what the media tells them. And some of them are things that we expect, and some of them are things that we don't expect. So I thought one of the things that we could do, and Melda, you might have to help me a little bit with this because of the format in which we're doing this in, but you know, it's really an opportunity to see like what you believe about the world based on these questions. And he uses 13 questions. We're not going to do all 13. We don't have time. But I really do want to give us an opportunity to really think about, you know, what it is that he wants to communicate about what we believe about information. So the first one, and I actually have to move my box out of the way here, this is the belief, really, and this is a worldwide belief. He took these questions and he applied them to the world, what people perceive about the world. So maybe through the chat box, yeah, why don't we do it through the chat box?
Polling, but polling doesn't work.
What? don't we do through the chat box?
Okay.
In all low-income countries across the world today, how many girls finish primary school? If you think A, put in the chat box A, 20%. If you think B, it's 40%, or if you think it's C, 60%. I'll give everybody a minute. Okay, so this is what we believe to be true, okay, about the world. I see a lot of B's and C's, a few A's. So it's interesting, all across them kind of have a whole mix of people. Okay, here we go. So according to him, 60% C. So those of you who pick C, this is where this actually came from. Now, why do people perceive usually 20%, the lowest, or the 40%? This is all about media messaging. What does the media tell us on a regular basis about girls in schools? And I think here in the US, I can speak from us, that we always tend to hear that in countries, especially like the Middle East, girls aren't getting education. Girls aren't getting education in Africa. And so the number really communicates in this way. So this is where this has become sort of a bigger issue in terms of how the media gives us perception. Okay, our next one. Where does the majority of the world population live? A, low-income countries, B, middle-income countries, or C, high-income countries? Same thing, let's drop it in the chat. What do you think? Yeah, so we see a lot of A's, B's, A's. So really interesting, right? So this is really going to be about perception at this point now too. A lot of A's. Yep, a lot of A's. Okay. All right. Wait one more minute. 1C, mostly A's. So really interesting. So a lot of people believe that the majority of the world lives in low-income countries. So here we go. And the answer is middle-income countries. So once again, what's the perception of where the majority of the world lives is based on how the media gives us information. And a lot of what our understanding of the world is about that. Excuse me. Next one, what is the life expectancy of the world today? A, 50 years, B, 60 years, C, 70 years. Okay, here we go. B's and C's, B's and C's. A, C, B's and C's. I see the stream, yeah. B's and C's. I'm so glad actually there isn't anybody who thinks that the life expectancy at this point is 50 years. That makes me feel a lot better. Good, C's, lots of C's. Okay, well, to move this along, yes, 70 years, which is really good to know because for a long time there, the same thing, we would think about this idea that perhaps people were not living quite as long. Now, obviously the pandemic has shifted a few things here and there, but it has not shifted the actual life expectancy. In fact, I would say that if he were to redo this, which I think he did his book in about 2018, he would probably raise the years now because people are living longer, people are healthier. Even though there's always a lot that the media provides about information about health, a lot of it is not necessarily accurate. Okay. How did the number of deaths per year from the natural disasters change over the last 100 years? More than doubled, remained about the same, or decreased or less than half? A, B, or C? What do you think? B. Interesting. C. B's and C's. 1A, I think it's B. C. Okay, so decreased to less than half. Now, a lot of this is actually one of those interesting things because the way the media reports disasters is always that it's always horrible things that are happening. Those are the things that we tend to see. Now, I'm going to do one more and then we're going to move how many of the world's 1-year-olds today have been vaccinated against some disease? A, 20%, B, 50%, or C, 80%? Ooh, A, B, C. So a mix again. Lots of A's, B's, and C's. And here we go back to A's again. C, B, A. Interesting. Someone wrote lots of A's. Okay, C's. Okay, 50%, B's. All right, so here we go. C now, 80%. So this actually says something about how much things have changed around the world. Now, the reason why I say that is because I did this test, and I do this often with my own students, is because we'll find is that everybody is all over the place, much of what we're seeing here. And I'm going to actually move through this because we all know at this point that the world is getting warmer. If you get a chance to actually see his TED Talk, his name is Hans Rosling. He does a very comprehensive thing about how it is that we get our facts wrong. And he talks specifically about why this happens. We love to dichotomize good versus bad, heroes versus villains, my country versus the rest, dividing the world into two distinct sides is simple and intuitive and also dramatic because it implies conflict and we do it without thinking all the time. So this is what he's saying about how the world operates. But then you take on the journalism piece of it. Hold on. Here we go. Sorry, let's share that screen again. Journalists know this, and this is what comes back to the media piece of it. Journalists know this. They set up the narratives as conflicts between two opposing people, views, or groups. They prefer stories of extreme poverty and billionaires to stories about the vast majority of people slowly dragging themselves towards better lives. This is what makes news stories so interesting. And he says journalists are storytellers, so are people who produce documentaries and movies. Documentaries pit the fragile individual against the big evil corporation. Blockbuster movies usually feature good fighting evil. So this is, I think, the bigger issue with how the media handles a lot of the issues that we see facing the world. And that's part of the conflict that we see within even how we perceive information when there's so much disinformation mixed in with that. So how did we get here? And I think it's a kind of a good way to sort of look at the classic way in which we started with information, obviously with newspapers. For most people, newspapers was the bigger force for actually connecting people to a medium. But newspapers started to change and move away. And so we started to have our social networks. And in 2007, we really started to see the development of how social networks were starting to have this impact in our lives. All of a sudden, the first news story started to take place. The Arab Spring, for the most part, actually occurred because of the information that was being transferred on Twitter. So they have had a bigger impact. We know that there's been this concern with technology and our connection to technology, and this idea that because we love these technology tools so much, that we're so willing to be connected to them. For those of you who are Star Trek fans, I don't know if Star Trek is a big thing in your part of the world, but this is very much like the Borg, for those of you who have watched any of that. Yeah, so I mean, the fact that we are so willing to be connected to our devices, which of course we are, and we see that with a lot of our students. Some of you are here today, you probably would agree with this. So we know that this is starting to change the generation of the world. And frankly, these social networks has also created a generation that's also very much interested in themselves. And so the selfies have become a big thing, TikTok, and you'll have to tell me if TikTok is as big there as it is in the US, because it's it is. So it's really this connection to who we are and what's out there. So eventually, you know, what's happened is that the psychology of the individual is always about trying to pursue this idea of happiness, and we're trying to generate it from some of these technologies. And so that has created this this extroverted piece of us that goes onto these online platforms, which may not be actually a representation of who we really are. Because we're always online and we're never offline. And that has really shifted and changed the way in which we connect with each other. Melda, I don't know if you want to jump in here at any point, so tell me if you do, okay?
Keep going. This is great. Thank you.
Okay. So then it obviously has led to the problem that we face right now, is that with so many people online, we don't know if there's information that's viable or not, whether information is truthful or not, which is a problem. And adding to the problem is the social networks companies who use algorithms to manipulate the information that we see, which we will talk more about as we go on. Any questions thus far? I know there's I saw a lot of things flying up on the chat. Melda, if you want to tell me if I need to answer any questions, just let me know, okay? All right.
Actually, we have prepared some questions on Padlet.
Oh, you did?
If you want, yes, if you want, at the end of your presentation, our students can ask you.
Excellent, excellent, excellent, good. Okay, so obviously we know the pace of this has changed our lives, and we know the number of, the increase of people who are using cell phones has increased, the wireless piece has increased, all of this has increased, and now we're all talking about 5G, which is the next part. We also know that we are in this problem where, because we're on these social networks, that the information is creating this disconnect between peoples, and we're allowing for some of this information to be taken and used, and not in a way that's very good for us. And the whole Cambridge Analytica piece that came out last year really revealed to the world how much of that information is actually being stolen and taken. And this is based on a US piece, but ultimately what we're talking about is all of these bots and all of these things that are out there that are tracking our behavior just from the very search that we do, whether it's a simple search, whether it's a more complicated search, it doesn't matter, because what Google does, and certainly Facebook and any one of the other different kinds of search engines does, is that they allow companies to track our habits, to find who we are, to connect us or disconnect us in some ways. So this has led us to, obviously, whoa, sorry, misspelling, my apologies. This issue of, having this idea of where privacy is, where we actually don't know where the line is with privacy, and we can't stop sharing information because we want to put a lot of things out there. That's hugely problematic. And then we also have the question of whether or not privacy has become a luxury good. Are we so willing and conditioned because of the media that we're in to not have some control over what we think used to be considered privacy? Are we so willing to just give it all up? And I think that's very different for different age groups. And that's, I think if we ask an older age group, they tend to still think of privacy as being something very important to them. I think people who are in the middle have actually mixed feelings. It depends on what it is that we're talking about when it comes to privacy. But it's definitely an issue. And then with the digital footprint, that I think is something that we really need to think about from the time kids are small to where they are now. We need to think about where all that information is going and how it's being collected. Glenn Greenwald does a TED Talk I would recommend if you have a chance to look at, and it's called Why Privacy Matters. And for those of you who don't know who he is, he's a journalist, but he's most famous for actually being the one who did the documentary on Edward Snowden. Do you guys know who Edward Snowden is? I just want to make sure, because that might, yes? Okay.
Yeah.
So Edward Snowden was the person who basically, who was it? Say it again. Yeah, he basically gave a lot of information away and has been living, I think he's still living in Russia at this point because he can't get a passport out. And if he goes to another country that has extradition rights with the United States, they'll extradite him right away. So that's a problem. But his TED Talk, I think, is fabulous because in a very short 20 minutes, he talks about why privacy matters. And for all the people who sit there and say, no, I don't care, I don't have anything to hide, he always at the end says to someone, well, if that's the case, send me your bank account numbers and I'm happy to jump in and look at your stuff. And not one person has ever emailed him with their bank account numbers. But so I think, obviously privacy matters. It's just about what are we talking about when it comes to privacy. Okay. And now we are seeing another level of where privacy has kind of broken. And that is that people's information that has been posted, tweets, whether it's through, Instagram or anything else, now their information is being weaponized against them. And I use this actually a lot with my own students. I have a lot of conversations with my own students here in the United States about this, because things that people post that they think are not a big deal, like when you fake someone's Instagram, when you put a tweet out in someone else's name, they think, oh, it's not a big deal. Well, what's happening now is that people collect this information, and someday someone will want to have an important job. And now all of a sudden someone will use what they have posted online against them. And this is where the scary part comes in. You don't really think about it when you're 13, but it becomes a really big deal when you're 20, 21. In this particular case, in this article, it's actually a congresswoman here in the United States who never expected that some of the things that she did when she was in high school and college to follow her, and it did. And so people are using this as a way to get back at people. I think it's also why we have all of a sudden this growth of cancel culture and censorship, because people say things and it will come back to haunt them later. And this isn't something that my age group grew up with. So we have had the benefit of actually not having had this, but we are now living in a time where every person born today will actually have to think about this moving forward. So it's very important. And so that also brings us back to this whole thing about health issues. Now we're in the vaccination piece of the time, where people are thinking about, I want to be vaccinated, and what is it about the information that's out there that I need to really think about? And how does all of that come to mean something to people who are concerned about whether or not they're getting viable information? Are they willing to have that information out there? Think about just yesterday, Anthony Fauci's emails were put out there to the world, his private emails. So people are reading about the things that he said that he publicly did not necessarily want to have happen. So when we think about data breaches and things that have been broken, this is one of those things. And the misinformation that has led to so many people dying. I mean, this is a real end result to bad information, is what we have seen happen in the last year and a half. So what will happen with this next, I don't know. But what I do know is that we are moving into this period now where all of a sudden we're willing to, because of the pandemic, we're willing to share our feelings and our medical information now with robots. And this has now become a part of the conversation that becomes really problematic, when all of a sudden we aren't talking to a human being now, but we're talking to a technology source. So this kind of takes us to the final piece of this, which is on algorithmic justice. And an important part, because we are living at a time where the evolution of data, which we know we have seen from the wireless piece to the never being offline, to the idea of cyberspace, to what I mentioned earlier about the Borg, all of that, this connection is leading us to, is our data for sale? And how much of it are we willing to give up and sell to people? And at which point do we ask these companies to finally take some responsibility for the fact that they've allowed people to hack the system, that they've allowed for the algorithm to manipulate the system in order for them to make a dollar or a, I don't even know, what's your, you're not making, what's your monetary system in Turkey?
Turkish lira.
There you go. If you want to make that instead from using people's information. And I think this is the things that we are trying to really concern ourselves with, because it's not something that's going away. In fact, the other part of this that we are really studying now is how within the algorithm, we have bias in information. And this has led to confirmation bias, to people not really thinking about how the consequences of what they say has an impact, and how the algorithm follows them to provide them with mis and disinformation. And it's growing now to the point where we've allowed the step into AI to take us into this surveillance mode, where people now are watching us, the cameras, and collecting more data about us, with the worry about what it is that we're doing and where it can lead in the future. This is something that I think as it's a worldwide issue right now. We know how China is using the data. Is it something that we're expecting other countries to use in the same way? Are we going to use facial recognition, or are we not? And will the facial recognition actually see you, or see what it assumes to be you? The questions that we face here in the United States, a lot of it has to do with the racial piece of it, because the algorithm doesn't see color. And for some people that sounds like a great thing, but instead it's created this code that's now biased against the person who actually does searching. So I do want to recommend these two films. I don't know if you can see them in your country. If you have seen them, one is The Social Dilemma. So I've left trailers, and I'm going to send you this presentation as well. And Coded Bias, which I really highly recommend as well. And just a piece of it, The Social Dilemma is really about the fact that we've allowed the algorithm and the likes and the notifications to control the individual. And our lives are very much connected to how these cell phones and the variety of cell phones, how they make us feel like we are a part of something when there's really maybe not anything there, except the fact that a company wants our attention. With Coded Bias, it's literally a researcher from MIT who discovered that the facial recognition piece would only recognize her face if she was white, not if she was black. So it's a really interesting conversation to have about where this is going to take us. And what does it say? Will it distinguish between a woman and a female and a male, or not? You know, so this is a part of that. Melda, did you want to jump in?
Yes. So welcome everyone in every language. And I hear through the chat, some of you want the Turkish version of this presentation, because I know Belinha, when she's talking, I'm like, oh, I don't even know how I translate this word. So because I've been also in the United States for 29 years, it's very difficult to translate. But I just want to say, merhaba, hoş geldiniz. And I will be more than happy to translate, or if you have any questions in Turkish, you want to type it up and I can respond to you in Turkish. And I also left my email up, so please feel free to email your questions.
Thank you.
So,
thank you, Melda Hocam. Our students with their teachers, so if they have problem, they can ask us. We will help them. No problem.
Thank you. So next slide. Belinha and I've been presenting about, oh yeah, thank you for moving the slides, about this algorithmic injustice for a while, and hope that we will, every time we present, we share, we also learn from you. If you look at this map, this is one of the maps, it's called political map, that's in most American classrooms. And I want you to also go look at the maps that you have in your schools, because maps tells a different story. And this one looks like Greenland and Africa, almost the same size. And when we question maps, you come up with a lot of interesting answers. Actually, Greenland is 0.8 versus Africa is 11.2 ratio. So Africa should have looked like 14 times bigger, but it doesn't. So we use a tool called Wolfram Alpha. If you've never used it, it's one of the most interesting computational engine that you can bring to your classroom, and the students will be able to learn or question the questions they didn't know they had had before, sometimes putting it out there. Do you mind putting the slide for the Wolfram Alpha page?
Yes.
Actually, dear Melda and Belinha, we used Wolfram Alpha. We have worked on safe search engines, and one of them was Wolfram Alpha.
Excellent.
This is very nice that I hear, because most American classrooms, we don't even know what that is. So I'm very, very happy to hear that. So when you put a search tool like size of Greenland versus Africa, I kind of want you to see how that ratio shows up. So the students could put things like different people, different, or the could any kind of a formula, and they can get answers that they cannot get in Google search, right? So if we could go next. I want to show you a different representation of maps, because it also gives you all the specific calculations. Here's a map from Australian point of view. So the student in Australia made $1 million by calling this an upside down map. I don't know if you guys could easily find Turkey on this map, because sometimes when you do, you don't see a map the way that you do. That's why I really love Google Earth, where you can rotate the map in any way you like. Greenland is actually in the right proportion. So next one is Peter's projection. And this is usually the map we never see in the classroom. This is the right map, but it looks like Africa is elongated, like stretched out. So if you look at the one all the way to the corner, left bottom corner, there's a tiny map, and the equator is 2/3 of the map. The reason when we looked at the first map, the political map, equator was drawn almost 2/3 of the map. That's why Northern Hemisphere looked like bigger than the Southern Hemisphere. And if you also look at the next map, it kind of compares the Greenland to Africa. So bringing even maps from different projections, or bringing Google Earth to your classroom, students will have a chance to see the world from multiple angles, because everything has a political agenda. One thing I want to add, what earlier Belinha alluded to, media's job is not to teach us, educate us, inform us, entertain us. If you only know, media's job is to, just like any other business, to sell their story, so sell their advertisers to their story so they can make money. Once we understand that, same thing with YouTube. Why people think put it on YouTube? They want to have more people liking them so that they can get monetize their knowledge or information they put in. So every time we think of media, I think instead of saying, oh, I'm going to go learn this information because they're there to educate me, teach me, entertain me, I think that's not the right approach. The approach should be, what are they selling? Why did they sell this knowledge? Well, who's benefiting from this? So if they ask the questions to media that they're exposed to, I think that's one way to get more media literate in the spectrum of media literacy education. Do we have any more slides? I have many stories. Oops, of course, I have teşekkür ederim for listening. We have a lot of exercises we compiled over, she said 25 years. I think about the same time I started media literacy education. So it's quarter of a century we've been studying media education, and we collected a lot of stories, projects, and I have been to 44 states so far, 6 more to go. Then I can write my book. I was told to write 50 states, 50 stories for age 50. Now that I'm 52 this summer, I gotta go visit those 6 more states. But to tell you the truth, every state I've been, Belinha and I know that tells a different story. If you live in Connecticut, I lived in Connecticut too. I paid 15 state taxes, meaning I lived and worked and contributed. So Connecticut has its own, and New York has its own stories or perspectives into the issues. So when we look at when I was in Wyoming teaching a course to educators, in the middle of nowhere. There are only cows and plain fields. Like you're on a highway, there's not one single car coming towards you. So I've been in a 2.5-hour drive from Utah, Salt Lake City, Utah, to my in the middle of nowhere teaching area. And in that place, I asked the students, which I ask everywhere, bring me the same story from 3 different perspectives, 3 different media sources. Guess what? One of the stories I never forget was about wolf population. So either New York Times or Boston Globe, which was northeast point of view about the issue. Another one was a local newspaper. I forgot the third one, but these 3 stories about the wolf population, it's the same number. Let's say 200 million, this and that. So the number was the same, but the way the story is being told was totally different. And they said to me, if you live in New Jersey, at that time I was living in New Jersey, if you live in New Jersey, you don't have wolves in your backyard. You don't need a gun when you're in New Jersey, but we do need to live with the animals. So for us, wolves are like cockroaches, like these little animals in our kitchens. So for us, in order to protect our livestock, we got to go shoot that animal. So for you, it's so easy to be environmental and protect the wolves. It's not living in your backyard. Of course you can say that. So it was so interesting for me to humble myself and say, wow, I never thought about that. So again, depending on your proximity, depending on your livelihood, your prior experience, there's something called semiotics. I don't know if anyone heard this term, imge bilmi, semiotics. Semiotics, I did my oral exam in my doctoral program on semiotics, the study of signs. Why signs, right? Every sign, when you look at any sign in the world, depending on your background, depending on the time and era, it means different things to people, depending on your experience. So if I put a picture like this, what does this mean? If I do some expression like that, what does that mean?
Okay.
See my finger? Yeah. It's okay if you're in the United States, but it means money in Japan.
Also in Spain.
Oh, it's an okay in Spain. Okay, but it's homosexuality in one country and money in another country means 0 in another country. So every sign that you think it's universal may also have connotations based on where you live, or based on the proximity, based on the prior experience. I gave an example one year on Afghanistan. If an Afghani child looks at a doll, they have a different exposure, because dolls at one time was used as explosive mayan, what do you call that? The one that explodes. So they came in the shapes of toys. So for a child looking at a toy in Afghanistan who lost a limb or leg or a loved one is different than in America, a child looking at a doll. So again, our exposure also makes difference into media. And that's why when Belinha put the different masks and says, I believe in CNN, some people constantly watch one show, Fox News. They watch one TRT, it's the Turkish channel, or depending on if you watch CNBC, you're going to also feeling much more inclined to believe and continue to watch that story because it fits to your story, it fits to your comfort zone. But media literacy is not about putting you in a comfort zone, it's putting you in a position of power to say, I am beyond this. I will be able to zoom in and zoom out to any story and start to see things from multiple angles. We have an exercise if anyone would like to do it. Do we have time? I'm so sorry. I don't know how long we need to talk. And
Sure. No, we have time. Please go on.
So if I can share my screen, 1 second.
Melda hocam, can I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
Did you mean the Wyoming in your speaking?
Wyoming, yes.
I have been there.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I work in Wyoming.
Right now?
The busser, yes, for 3 months
Oh my
in
God.
2008.
So it's a whole
Because your
different
passion
experience
never runs out.
than
Yes,
living
I know
in
what you
New
mean.
York. So when you say I went to United States, people are going to ask you, have you seen the Statue of Liberty? You will say, oh no, I sell cows and
I work in the Grand Teton Lunch Company in the hotel. Maybe
Wow.
you know. But
That's-
I visited New York too. I saw the statue.
I saw the Statue of Liberty as well.
perfect. So okay, you got the some part-
Marta did too.
But
That's
I got on the boat because it was cheaper. I didn't get on the island. I just
I went
saw
on
it.
vacation. I've been to New York and to Chicago and Boston, some of the places over that coast.
You've
They
seen
are-
some
I
big
want to see
cities.
more things.
Yeah,
I visit Las Vegas,
nice.
New York, and Wyoming.
okay, you got some, popular sites and you could talk different parts of America. Now I give you credit for that. So this is one of my presentations I had done, but I want to share with you one exercise here. It's from The Guardian and this YouTube channel, and we will share our resources, right, Belinha? Okay, so in this
Yes.
one, I want you to look at this. This is the first media experience I had 25 years ago, and this made me a media literacy teacher. Well, let's see. Why it's not playing. Maybe I have an issue with the internet. So let me just go back to the, because I'm advancing, not playing the YouTube video. Sorry about that. So let's go click on the video.
An event seen from one point of view gives one impression. Seen from another point of view, it gives quite a different impression. But it's only when you get the whole picture you can fully understand what's going on.
So we call this the language and grammar of media.
Interesting.
Oh,
What to me, this is the opening. That's just like some of you saying,
In today's encouraging report, initial claims for
So why
unemployment
would-
insurance
why-
fell to their lowest
Oops.
level and below 400,000
I
for
have
the
to
first
find
time
where
since
I
the
can turn
pandemic
off
hit.
that video.
This is just the latest evidence that President Biden's
okay.
economic
We are still in shock.
So that's what happens, don't stop the videos on YouTube that keeps playing. So what I'm trying to message here to all of us, all the students, all the media scholars and the future media literacy people, just zoom in and zoom out. Use all the media terms, because if you have if you say, oh, they could put me a picture of this, who is telling the story, from what perspective, what era? Because if you remember, CNN made a very conscious decision to put a dancing Palestinians during the 9/11. That juxtaposition to this day hurt so many people. There's still people believe that day Palestinians were dancing when the towers are collapsing. Who made that choice to juxtapose that image that was a wedding or has nothing to do with 9/11, or it happened the week before, or whatever it was? To this day, nobody really knows exact the story, because I heard that story also from multiple angles. But the truth is, you as a reader make the truth. So there is this wonderful truth video. If we have time, I can also Google to show you at the very end, because truth is in the eye of the maker. To this day, we say science is the most truth. Science is another theory that we are always proving. We live in this whole connected universe, as Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson says. We're all connected to each other biologically, to Earth chemically, to the rest of the universe atomically. And with the power of media, I will add, with social media and these new technologies, electronically. Let's get together in this interconnected world, just like what you're doing and reaching to Belinha, and she reached out to me. Look what happened. We have now a good group of people. We know we need media literacy skills. We need to learn the ABCs of media. We need to be able to talk back to media. We don't want to be the consumers. We're going to be the producers of media. We're going to be stronger, happier, healthier world, one student at a time, one media literacy exercise at a time, because it's all in the spectrum of learning.
Yanlış anlama.
Thank you. Teşekkür ederim. Let's see Millie.
We thank you. We thank you both, Melda Hocam and Belinha, for your wonderful speeches. Thank you very much. If you may, our students will have questions for you. Let me share my screen. They use Padlet for this. I am sharing. Yeah, I managed to share. Let's start with Burhan's team. Ahmet Efe, are you there? You will ask
Yes.
Burhan teacher's question.
Yes.
Please open your camera, by the way. We can see you.
Okay.
Hi, hello. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. How can we erase digital footprints?
Oh, so this is the hard one. And I think this is something to remember for now. Unless there is a law in your country, it is very difficult to erase your digital footprint. In the US, we have no way of erasing our digital footprint. In Europe, you do, because in Europe, they actually have several laws. And Rosa, I believe you're in Italy, you probably know about
Yes,
this.
yes.
The EU has worked very hard to make this happen. And I congratulate them, because this, I think, is a huge victory for people. But the problem is that it is not in every country, everywhere. We in the US would say that it's the Wild West in terms of the internet. Anybody puts anything up, there's nothing that really can erase that. And so I always say you must be careful and remember who you are now. Even though you might be, and Ahmet, how old are you, if you don't mind my asking? How old are you, Ahmet?
How old are you, Ahmet Efe?
I'm 12 years old.
You're 12. So what I would say to you is remember that the things that you put on the internet at 12 will still be there when you're 25, unless the things change. So please keep that in mind. Don't be careful. And this is true for everyone. And I will tell you, I have a lot of conversations with girls in particular who don't think when they're in love, let's put it that way. Can I put that way gently? Yes. When they're in love, think that if they post things and give things away online, that it's safe. It is not safe. Okay, so just please be careful about all the things that you put out there. There are people to this day who are fighting to get images, things that are said. I mean, even an example, some of you may have heard this about a businesswoman who was traveling from the United States to Africa, and she posted a tweet which was really reprehensible, but she thought she was only tweeting it to her friends. What she didn't realize is that those friends are connected to other friends, and they all read it on their Twitter feed. By the time she got from the United States to Africa, she had been fired from her job, and she had received thousands and thousands and thousands of hate tweets from people. It was it was in poor taste. And there's actually a lot of articles written about how her life changed fundamentally after that. It was supposed to be a joke, and sometimes a joke is not a joke to everyone. So it's very, very important that you're just aware of it. It's a really great question. But until your country or many countries get together and allow that the user has the power versus the company, your digital footprint will live forever.
I also want to add that most of the time when you're downloading a free app or free resource, maybe putting some cookies in the background, and then maybe it says, do you want to accept this? And then you accept it without even reading. And who has time to read? Even if you read, you may not understand. So when you use something that's free, or when you use something that's public. There's always an information you're giving out that they benefit. Who wants to give a free knowledge? This is what my dad, who died several years ago, he always told me, even if somebody's giving you a compliment, they're always thinking about some kind of a benefit out of it. So just think why something is free, why you want to download and give your information free.
Right, you're right. Thank you very much. Let's jump to Rosa's team. Rosa, hello.
Hi. There's one student, Annalisa. She wants to make the question.
Yes, please.
Annalisa, where are you?
I'm there. Hello.
Okay. Yes, hello.
How does our digital footprint impact our life?
Melda, do you want to take this one, or do you want me, or what do you want to do? I will take it.
I'm ready for any questions.
Okay, so do you want you to take this one? How does the digital footprint impact our life?
Just giving the example earlier, how it may change your life, better or worse. Definitely, our digital footprint is you carry. So it's not like the one that you are on the beach that washes away by the next coming wave. It's going to be there forever. So whatever you're doing online, you need to feel responsible. And just like what Belinha earlier alluded to, you might be just doing a joke with friends, but friends have friends, and not everyone understands the joke the same way because they come from different backgrounds, different perspectives, just like what I said about semiotics. Everyone reads the message differently. Your friend who knows you may see you as, oh, that's not racist. That person just making a joke of a racist people, but not everyone understands that. So stay as clear as possible from advertising yourself on the internet, especially if you're not making money out of it. You better don't make other people make money out of you.
Right, that's right. So thank you very much. Now it's my team's turn. Elif Yağmur will ask our question. Hello, Elif Yağmur.
I would like to ask, why is citizenship is important in your opinion?
Great question. Great question. I think, one, because of the word citizenship. You are a citizen of the world, and whether it's digital or not, but in particular because we are in a digital space, we will be a part of the world. And so who you are online and offline will eventually become one, and it's going to be very synonymous, so that you actually have to think about what you want to give to the world as in your capacity right now and in the future. There is no, I almost feel like when we talk about it, I don't even want to say digital citizen any longer, because we just are. We will forever be digital. It is never going away. In fact, if anything, the pandemic has shown us that we will forever be more invested in these tools. So it's really about being just a citizen. You know, what does it mean to be a citizen today in your country, and as a global citizen? What does that mean, and how does that impact the things that you do online as well as offline?
Yeah, that was right. Thank you very much, Yağmur and Belinha. Let's go on with Fatma's team. Fatma. Hello.
Hello all. Thank you again for your great infos about media literacy, Belinha and Melda, dear. My students Halil will ask his question. Halil, are you here?
Yes. Oh.
Halil, can you hear me?
I guess Halil is.
Okay, Mehmet, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Halil couldn't hear me. You can ask. You can open your camera also.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, thank you, Mehmet.
How can we manage and minimize the negative impact of our digital footprint?
So I think managing is a great word for a digital footprint. And basically it's just knowing every time that you're online where your information is going. And that's from the things that you share with your friends. If you're a video gamer, because I know there's a lot of young men in here, video gamers are doing a lot of the same things where they're putting a lot of information out there. It's also, I'm going to say this from watching, a lot of high school students right now. It's about being a good person in this world too. Some of the things that happen that are negative online is because we forget that we should be better people. And it's easy to make mistakes. Don't get me wrong. And everyone should have the forgiveness of those mistakes. The problem is that the digital world doesn't forget. And so it's important to always remember that.
Right. We should. Thank you. Let's jump into Marta's team. Hello, Marta. Your question seems mixed with Venera's, I guess.
Hello. Yeah, I was talking to my student because we had a question similar to Burhan's team. So I was talking to her. Noive, could you read my email?
Noive? Can you hear?
Okay. If not, I could do the question.
Please.
But
how could we find our own digital footprint?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, please?
Hello, I'm Noive from Spain. I'm 9 years old. How could we find our own digital footprint? Thank you.
Okay, so you know what I would suggest, and I recommend to do this at least once a year. Put your name in Google, search yourself, see what comes up. You'd be amazed. Sometimes you're not even the one who's put up the information. Sometimes you're at a birthday party and somebody put a picture of you up. And they tagged you in their profile. It could be you ran a race. I do this a lot with my high school and my college students, but I recommend this for everybody. If you want to know what's out there about you, put your name in Google. Google works by getting algorithms to search for the things that connect. And so if they are following as we predict they are following, then they're gathering information. So if the information is there, it's available. So I would do that. I would just stay up and be aware of that.
Right. You're right. Thank you very much. So let's go on with Venera's team. Venera, is this your question? Am I wrong? This one?
I think that we answered it. That's why she...
Yes, that's why. So Venera, if you agree that we answered this, I can pass. Or no? Venera, can you hear me? Or
Normally she was here, but I think she has a connection problem.
Oh, okay, Tuba. Then let's go on with you and your team.
Yes, it's our turn. Again, thank you very much for a great presentation and great information. And Rabia will ask you question. Rabia.
Hello, I'm Rabia Yıldız from Mersin. I am 12 years old and I study in Yeşil Science and Art Center. Welcome to our project. My question is, what is the relationship between media literacy and critical thinking?
What?
What is the relationship between media literacy and critical thinking?
Critical thinking.
Do you want to go for it, or do you want me to do it, Melda?
To me, they're interconnected, or if we're seeing a Venn diagram, like they could be part of each other's circle. And I also add global competencies on it. I will add now computational thinking skills. Media literacy is the way that I started working on is mostly focused on language arts and social studies. And as because I'm a maths and science STEM teacher, I end up encompassing other skill sets like critical thinking underneath or within the realm of critical thinking. What do you think, Belinha?
Yeah, I don't think one exists without the other. So I agree with you. I don't think that you can do media literacy work without critically thinking about what it is that you're studying or considering or questioning. Frankly, questioning is part of critical thinking. And I think if you question how things are done or exist or the power behind them, all of that, that leads to critical thinking skills.
So they're interconnected. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's go with Nilüfer.
Can I
Hello,
just share?
Oh, hi. Thank you, Melda and Belinha. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and I learned a lot. I took notes a lot. And I have one more question. Can you tell us more about algorithms for our students?
Sure. Melda, you want to jump or do you want me to go?
Algorithm is, to me, the basic definition is how you take the data. Actually, I'm taking a class on Coursera. I highly recommend it, but done by the Google. It's designed for business people, but the way that they're talking about every data out there is a gold for them, just like the Belinha slide about is our data is for sale. So algorithm gets this data and makes it into a meaningful order and sells it back to you. So it's what the Google search does for you. Creates this algorithm and tries to get the information sorted in a very quick amount of time and get it to you. So if somebody says the rule is 1 + 1 is equal to 2, right? So that calculation is an algorithm. So the computer, this is the computer language to make anything mathematical. It could be a text, it could be a voice, it could be a word, everything could be designed in a way, the data, so that it makes it meaningful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much again. So let's go on with Sana's team. Hello, Sana, are you there? We can go on with your team.
Yes, hello, good evening. I'm so sorry because I can't open my camera. There is a problem in it.
That's okay.
No problem.
We don't have internet problems, don't worry.
Now I let my student Tulin to ask question.
Okay,
sure.
Thank you, Sana.
Yes, Tulin.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, Tulin, we can hear you.
I'm Tulin. I'm from Jordan.
Hello, Tulin.
My question for you, how can we be good digital citizenship?
Just being here today is already a good start.
So,
absolutely.
We are already good digital citizenships.
Just being curious about things. And instead of saying, oh, like why somebody said something to you, it could be even in your own culture. Somebody says, this is how you need to do it. And if you're thinking, why they tell me to do this, let me research why. And then you ask questions. I think that's, to me, a beginning of media literacy.
I also think, I'm just going to add to that, Melda, I think to remember that you're a person who's on a computer screen or on a phone screen, and there's another person who's going to receive that information, and they're people too. And we tend to forget, because we have this wall, whether it's the computer, whether it's the phone, as the transmitter, we forget that there's somebody on the other end. And this is the perfect communications model, where they're sending, where there's a receiver. The receiver has feelings too. And I think it's important to remember that we're all people in this. And for all the things that people say, I think the worst saying in the world that ever came up with was that whole thing about sticks and stones can break my bones. But I don't know if you guys have this in Turkey and other countries, but words can never hurt you. That's not true. Words hurt people. Words hurt people just as much as hurting them with a fist. And the worst thing that happens to people is to feel hurt by the words that they see on a screen. So try to be a good person to the best of your ability.
Can I just share a screen? This is, I think, what she's talking about. Sender and the receiver, right? we have the noise in the middle. It could be a bad internet connection. It could be cultural difference, just we talked about. It could be your learned experience or distance to the story. You may misunderstand, and this is a great way to think about it. And the other slide I put together was this information literacy, that somebody decided media literacy and all the skill sets. They're all connected to each other under information literacy, or someone could put media literacy at the top, depending on who's talking. But here's another chart I wanted to share.
Thank you. That was useful too. I will share my screen again, question screen, but I can't. Why? Yeah, I'm doing. So it is Svetlana's turn. Svetlana, and hello.
Hello, everybody. And thank you very much for your presentation and that you are together with us and give very useful information for us. And what concerning my students' question, I can see that it's a little the similar as previous one. That's why maybe some changed. What for you especially means to be a good digital citizen? Do you know, how do you think? Are you really digital person or not?
Personal.
Personally, I think that I live too much on these digital spaces right now. I cannot wait to turn them off, to be honest with you. But I think what we've all learned is that these are wonderful tools, what we have here. These are amazing tools. If we think about what we've lived through in the last 14 months with the pandemic, if we didn't have the technology, our solitude would have been even more lonely. I don't think it solves the loneliness issue, which I think some people think that technology does that for them. I think it can enhance that problem for some people. But what I think it does do is it provides an opportunity for connections like this. The fact that you found me, and for the students who are here who don't know, your teachers really went out of their way to find me. Email, Instagram, Twitter, I mean, it was really something. But think about that. Like, that's an amazing thing to have happen. I actually said to someone a year ago, I was on a train from New York City to Connecticut, which isn't too far away, but it's about 2 hours. And I had run onto the train. I'd been at a conference, got on the train, sat down. And as I was sitting there, you know, this is one of those moments where for those of you who've never been in the city, they don't really talk to you on the train. People in New York are not very friendly on the train. But when you're rushing, you talk to everybody. And so Melda will tell you I talk to everybody anyway. So I'm chatting away like, hello, blah, blah, and I'm stressed because I've been running. I didn't notice that the tag that I had been wearing at the conference had fallen. And it must have fallen in the fourth car. So somehow from the fourth car to the first car where I was sitting, the woman looked up my name on Google, went to LinkedIn, sent me a message through LinkedIn and told me that she had my my tag, and that the train conductor was going to walk up and down the train looking for me until he found me. And I thought, that is amazing. And literally he found me and gave me that. And I sent her a thank you note on LinkedIn. Where in the world would that have ever happened, right? So I think that the technology has done these amazing things. It has helped people find, you know, not just tags, but other people, relatives. It has connected people. It has allowed for genealogy to happen. It's allowed for these amazing things to happen. But we need to take, well, I'll use the Spider-Man saying, with great good comes great, with great power comes great, oh my gosh, I'm going to say it wrong. Melda, do you know what I'm talking about? With great power, she walked away.
Great responsibility.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. My husband would be so mad at me right now for not knowing that.
I love that quote.
We won't tell him, Belinha.
He would be like, how could you forget that? Thank you. Yagmur, is that your name, Yagmur? Thank you so much.
Did you also realize how much we were presenting or saying things all come from media?
It's true. It's true. So
Media
absolutely.
is really in our DNA now.
Yes. And I think all the things that we love are also the things that we sometimes hate about the media. So it's about a balance. And I think bringing that to who we are, knowing that we need screen off time just as much as we need screen time is important, and finding balance. And I think that's something for, especially for the youngsters who are in this call today, you're going to have to find that time and build it into your life, because eventually it's going to seem very seamless that you're on and off, and it won't be very different.
Yes, thank you very much. Very great answer. I also think you shouldn't be hidden all your time in a digital world.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yes, it's balanced. It's great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, we have to find a balance. Let's go on with Nohayla's team. Nohayla is not here as far as I know, but her student is here and will ask question. Hello?
He was. I saw.
Yes, I'm here.
Hello. Can you ask Nohayla's question, please?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Belinha Hamd from Secondary School for Girls. Further Secondary School for Girls. My question is, what are the advantages and disadvantages of digital citizenship, and what is the effect of it in schools?
In education.
So I would say in schools, this is the struggle. So everybody talks about digital citizenship in the schools, at least here in the United States. The problem is that we tend to talk about it always from a negative lens. Don't do this, don't try this, don't do that. And I think that's problematic, because we also know that there's a lot of great stuff happening online. And we also know that content creators, young content creators, are doing amazing things. So I think it's once again brings us back to that comment about balance. And I think it's important that teachers be open to some of the things that their students are interested in and involved in. When I went through learning about media literacy, one of my professors, his name was David Considine, would say to me often, remember about the pleasure principle about the media. We're all in these places because it gives us pleasure as well. And we can't talk about it always from this protectionist thing. Oh no, don't do this, don't do that. And I think that it's unfair to our students to say, no, don't do this. You know, what we want to say is, yes, but be careful. And maybe no, because this is a really bad idea. And here's why. And actually explain that piece, not just that no, because I said so, or yes, because I said so, but really the bigger picture behind why it is what we do online matters or doesn't matter.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. As far as I can see, this was the last of our questions. My partners, would you like to add any contribution? You're all welcome. After that, we will have a surprise for our guest.
Yes, surprise.
So if you don't have anything to add, I will give permission to Tuba and Burhan Hocam to speak.
Who is the first, Özgen, me or Burhan teacher?
I think Burhan needs a little bit more time.
Hello, Belinha and Melda. Thank you for your presentation. I am an ICT teacher in Kastamonu Science and Art Center.
He's awesome.
I prepare a surprise for you. Thank you again. I am sharing my screen.
Teacher,
I think this is for Melda. I made a college for you this presentation.
Nice.
I am now zoom out.
Like you said, Melda, zoom in and zoom out.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Okay, that's a surprise.
And this is Melda. And now I made the for Belinha. And this is Belinha.
My goodness. This is really
Thank you again for your presentation.
Thank you.
This is awesome. Thank you so much. I mean,
Yes.
I really can't wait to
Also
continue this
screen.
dialogue and learn from each and every one of you.
Burhan teacher, could you share the screen again? We couldn't see.
We couldn't see Belinha, Burhan.
Oh, sorry.
They are so excited.
Yes,
Yeah, I was thinking like that.
Ah,
Oh,
that's
Very
why.
nice.
Wait a minute, please.
So cool.
It's not surprise.
No, it's not.
Are you see my screen?
Yes, we can
I
see.
do.
Yes, now this is Belinha.
This is very cool. You will be sending us this because this is lovely. I would love to use.
Sure.
Of course we
Thank
will.
you so much.
We have been working on this from background. You didn't see it.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. We love them very much.
I sent this picture, this college to Özgen, and she will send you. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Very much.
Thank you again.
I don't know if you saw, I sent one student asked earlier, how can I Google myself? I sent the link out because I put myself in this Giga alert. So you can see results every time. So because I'm a public person like Belinha, anyone could Google and get me, but I want to see what others are getting. So for instance, in this last one, I got a Giga alert on our book that we co-wrote together.
Great.
So again, we keep Googling ourselves too. I think it's a great idea that the student asked that question earlier. So thank you.
Absolutely. Actually, the questions were great. We thank you so much for them. They were very great, very good questions.
Oh, thank you so much. I copied the links and put it on Padlet, Özgen.
Yeah,
so that we can all see.
Right now, you mean?
Chance to,
I did.
You did. Okay.
It's on the Padlet.
Thank you.
It's on the Padlet. You can all see.
I got it now. Thank you very much. Now it is Tuba's time. Yes, Tuba, are you ready to share another memory?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is all time. So this is for Melda teacher.
Thank you. It's wonderful. and also look at this video I also shared on the truth that this commercial that was done and won a Cannes Award for being a creative advertisement. It's the truth advertisement. It's very interesting. Maybe the kids would love to see how the truth is made in media.
Sure. We have an activity like this in our project. We can use this. Thank you very much. So
thank you so much for having us. It's just been a real pleasure, and I love the conversations and the questions. It's been a pleasure to meet all of you, and I hope someday we can actually meet in person instead of via Zoom. And I have not forgotten. Listen, I want you to know I have here for all of you. These are the books I'm sending you. And the material. I haven't had a chance to mail them, but they're all here. I wish I could send you more copies, but I don't have enough. And so I tried to send as much as I could, and you'll be getting them soon. Okay.
Maybe we can come and get more. Maybe we can come and get more from you.
Yes, come here.
Hopefully we will. We will find a way.
Yes. Well, I think next year we'll start having more conferences that are face to face. Bring your students too, especially Yagmur, who knew the answer. My husband is so proud of you.
Yagmur, you earned it.
You are invited.
My husband finds it very funny when I interject, Marvel characters, and because he loves all these characters, so he repeats these things. So when I don't remember them, he's like, how can you not? I talk with them all the time. I'm like,
I love your husband.
My brain is things.
Yağmur is interested in everything and everything, so she has an idea on everything. So you
I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
we are very awesome.
So thank you very much once again, dear Belinha and Melda hocam. we are really glad and honored to have you in our session today. If my partners haven't any question, I want to close the session and say goodbye. Do you have?
Yes, we are so glad to be with these wonderful two people.
I think, Marcos, do you have a question? Because I feel like you're raising your hand, or are you?
Marcos is using his fingers on the tablet, I guess.
Oh, got it.
I think he's only doing something on his screen, on the tablet.
Bedtime. He was like
looking for the chat or
you
something like that.
Right.
Yes. Well, thank you again. Have a wonderful evening, and please
Thank you
stay
very
in touch.
much. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you all. Have a
Thank
nice
you,
night.
teacher.
See you
Thank you
later.
very much.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, teacher.
See you later.
Later.
Cheers. Bye bye.
We love you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.